What's up, ladies and gentlemen? One and only James Williams, Dark Waters, your boy, and I'm back with another phenomenal interview. Now, I need y'all to understand what's going down out here in these paranormal streets. All us tinfoil hat wearers, the people that they say are crazy, but we're not crazy. They are the crazy ones. You got streams coming, unlike you ever seen before. I mean, real live stream upon live stream upon live stream. We're kind of hitting our stride again and getting reorganized to where we can do stuff. But right now, what I'm going to do is I have an interview with Cherry Peterson. Now, Cherry is a Bigfoot enthusiast and author, and she's written a book about the view from Seat 13F. And I think you guys are going to find this absolutely amazing. The events that took place on a day that changed her life. I think you're going to like it. Then we're going to switch over. We're going to do a little bit of talking about Bigfoot. So we know we got the Bigfooters out there who love to talk about Bigfoot. And then we're going to wrap it up with just being silly and laughing and joking like we always do. All right. So without any further ado, I'm bringing her in and let's get it rolling. Cherry, how are you today, my love?
I'm doing great. How are you guys?
I'm fantastic. I have my strawberry water. I'm ready to rumble. My voice is doing better. And I'm ready to go. Let's start here. I know people traditionally say, tell everybody a little bit about yourself. To me, that's kind of boring. That's crazy. But I will start with this. I'll say, what inspired you to write this book? And more than that, there's a series of events that took place that you explained to me. What event itself made you say, I have to put this in writing?
Oh, well, the funny part is, James, it was February 24th, 1989. So this is the anniversary. So it's nice to be remembering it 35 years later.
Mm-hmm.
But I worked in travel, and one of my jobs was to travel around the country and around the world with executives, taking care of issues with them, which my mother told people. I grew up in Iowa, and she told people I was a paid escort that traveled around the world with executives. And I went, whoa, hold on.
Whoa, that's terrible, Mom.
Whoa, Mom. So we had to sort that out. But that was my job. And I had an assignment to work in Australia for a week from Denver, where I live. So the whole thing going, I had friends come up to me and say, I don't like you going on this trip. Have a safe trip. And being in travel, that's like you going to the grocery store and people saying, be safe. And I'm thinking, why is everybody telling me this? So I left Denver, went to LA to Honolulu. And as we were getting on the 747 in Honolulu, I remember, and this is 1989, I'm looking at the outer of the door. And I worked in travel, so I was on a lot of airplanes, and I thought, wow, this is a really old airplane. I hope it makes it, which is a weird thought for me. I board the airplane. I have my boarding pass. I'm in seat 13F, 9F. And I get on the flight, and there's a guy sitting in the seat. Well, I said, I'm sorry, you're in my seat. He goes, I'm not moving. He had a cocktail, and it was business class. His coat was off. And I said, oh, okay. And the flight attendant said, just sit down anywhere. We got to push back. So I plopped down in 13F. Now I'm on the aisle, and I've got the bulkhead behind me. There's nobody behind me.
Okay.
Now the whole thing's kind of weird anyway. There's just a lot of weird vibes going on. So we take off. And as we're climbing out, I loosened my seatbelt, which I always do. I never take it off. And I heard this young man whisper in my ear, tighten your seatbelt. You're in for the ride of your life. And I looked because there was nobody standing there. There's nobody up and moving in the aircraft. We're still climbing out. And I hired flight attendants, and I knew that wasn't a crew instruction. And it kind of it got my attention. So I thought, okay, that's really creepy and prophetic. And I gave my seatbelt a tug. And then I started hearing these grinding noises under my feet. And everything in my body was screaming, that's not right. That's not right. That's not right. And then, boom, cargo door's gone. 9 people around me are sucked out, including the guy that was in the seat that wouldn't give it up for me.
Ooh, yeah, you had the right about that. That's wow. That's something from a freaking movie.
Oh yeah,
That
I
wow.
have goosebumps right now just talking about it. And that's the start. It gets better.
Oh, keep going. I gotta hear this. This is
Yeah. So now we're at 24,000 feet, which is 5 miles up. We're on a 747. I've got a hole you could drive a Mack truck through right there. 9 people, 8 people in their seats. The seats and everything went. The debris is amazing. The noise, the cold, the engines are on fire. And I'm going, there is no way we can survive this. This is, I'm going to die. And I started thinking about my family, and they're going to think this was awful. And all of a sudden it got quiet, and I could see just as far, once again, as far as the eye can see, white beings. And they're all around, and it got real quiet, and all I could hear just over and over again, energetically, not in voices, but in energy. It was just coming at me going, we got you, we got you, we got you, we got you. And I'm thinking, oh my God, this is heaven. And I thought, this is really cool. It's not awful. And I'm going, again, no words for what all this was. And then all of a sudden I cracked back into reality because it hit me. We are going to make it, because visually I saw this enormous hand come under the aircraft, and the aircraft was like a speck, but like the hand of God. And I thought, oh my God, we're going to make it. And with all of the things that we had gone wrong, obviously people go, did you make it? Well, yes, I did.
Yes, we're here today. Of course she made it.
Did she make it? Did you survive? But the whole thing was anti-normal. There's no reason we should have made it back. It was one of the top 10 incidents in the history of aviation. We had structural damage. We were fully loaded. We had there was all this weight. We should have never made it back to Honolulu. So I went from thinking I was going to die over the ocean to back to Honolulu. And then evacuating the airplane, we had to go down the slide, and they told us to run, and it was raining. And I had a track scholarship to college, so I was about halfway to Kauai before they stopped me, running down the runway. And I hear this, and I just collapsed, and I hear these firefighter voices going, where are you going? And I'm like, well, look. And again, all of a sudden, I'm sitting there on the runway, and this angel softness wings came and just held me and said, you did okay. You're going to be all right. And part of this story goes with a very abusive marriage that convinced me I needed to make some changes. I was going to be all right. And so I've always had this other voice and people watching after me. I could tell you stories all day long about how I've had my life saved just listening and going, you know what? I was going to do this, but I'm going to do that instead. And something bad happens to the people that went that way and not my way, over and over again. So a lot of help from.
That's because angels are awesome. God is awesome. The angels, when I tell you the angels are awesome, I love angels. When I tell you about being in this field, dealing with the darkness of this field, I've seen angels do things that I'll tell you a quick story. I'm sitting outside my apartment smoking a cigar. And at this point in time, I'm having issues with a friend of mine who used to stay with me, who his whole life was a Christian. Then some kind of way he got deep into occultism, but he was a genius. I'm talking about a certified genius that the government recruited to be a hacker. That's his level of intelligence. And everything he ever did, he did it 100%. So he goes into the occult 100%. He and I get into it. He starts using magic. I'm sitting outside smoking a cigar, and this thing rises up out of the pool that's made of water and smoke. Just imagine sitting there smoking a cigar. There's a pool in front of you. Just comes up out of the pool, and it's a humanoid figure. And then it spreads these black wings, and I'm sitting there looking, and I'm like, holy crap, what are you and what do you want? And as it's expanding its wings, like it's going to flap them to come my way, I say, well, God, you're going to let this thing take me out? Or is one of these angels around here that I know are here going to help me? Because this don't look too good. I'm just that casual about it. And you see this beam of light, or this boosh. And I'm like, wow, that was awesome. And then the water reacts to it because the water is like, it has this little ripple of explosion, like, And my neighbors say the next day, hey man, was there somebody outside shooting? I didn't hear it, but I saw the explosion. It's like somebody outside shooting. I was like, no. It was like, man, it sounded like gunshots last night. Angels, all I'm gonna say is angels are awesome. And anybody who's listening, if you ever encounter them, they are freaking amazing. Which lets you know how amazing God is. First of all,
thank you for sharing that. That's incredible.
They are amazing. They are amazing. I'm telling you, ministry. All right, we about to have us some fun. So you survive a horrific event. That is horrific. I mean, that's how long. First of all, how long did it take for the adrenaline dump after that? Was it quick, or did it last days, and then you were just like, "Oh, I'm over it all. I got to rest."
Oh no, it was years, but initially, and I went on to work.
What?
Yeah, I'm telling you.
Wait, you got back on a plane after that?
The next flight out, and I went on to Australia, and there were
crazy, girl.
Oh yeah, it was nuts.
You nuts.
But that's how I was raised.
Right.
I wasn't dead, and they gave us options, and I said, you know what? I'm supposed to meet 300 people, so I went on to Australia, and I met the 300 people. But I was a mess. I had no luggage. They gave me $200, which is nothing in Australia. Mm-hmm. I had no ID, but again, it was 1989. So, it wasn't as strict as it was. So I'm flying international with no ID. I get to Australia and I'm helping these people. And it's the next day, of course, but all these people are coming in and going, oh my God, I'm so glad I wasn't on that flight. And it would trigger me and I'd have to step away and go to the room. And I pulled a chair up in front of the window. And I would sit there with my hands on my face and look out the window and go, okay, someday you're going to be normal again. It'll be normal again. I couldn't sleep in the dark. I still can't sleep in the dark, and I still have PTSD about it. Certain things will trigger me because I'm pretty solid, but there are certain things that trigger, and I'm like, where did that come from? And it's something always happens that I need to pay attention to. It's like, hey, you're not listening. Hey, you're not listening. Whap. Oh, now I hear you. Right. But I mean, this has been over years and years and years. But I have. I came back. Well, there was a lot of things that happened, but at one point during the trip, we moved around from Sydney up to Cairns and around, seeing things. And I came back to the hotel room and they had found my luggage and put it in the middle of the room. Like there were 2 suitcases, and I walked in the room and I just was so startled. I walked around it like an animal, like I couldn't handle the bags. So I'd have a bellboy come up and handle them. I didn't even open them. I couldn't even look at them. They just freaked me out so bad because that was holding the floor up in the aircraft during the incident. And wow. I encourage your viewers, look at United 811 and look at the photos, because there's no way that aircraft should have made it back. I mean, they enacted, or what do you call it, in the computers with all the conditions, and we never make it back. Never. I mean, he was on 2 engines flying a full 747, trying to land on a little runway in Honolulu.
That's amazing.
Unbelievable. Yeah. God bless that guy. He retired.
Yeah, God bless him. God bless him. That's absolutely amazing. So
it changed my life.
I was going to say, how old were you when this happened? This is life altering.
Yeah, I was 38.
Okay, so you're 38. And you mentioned that you were dealing with a bad marriage.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty sure that gave you the courage to be like, listen, life is too short. Peace out, homie. I'm gone.
Well, here's what happened. He was, when he was good, he was very, very good. And when he was bad, oi. But I was standing at the kitchen counter after it happened, and I had an anxiety attack, which surprised me. So I grabbed the counter, and my legs kind of buckled, and he was walking behind me, and he looked at me and he goes, oh, get over it. And I went, all right. I am over it. And that was the end of the end. Get over it? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, and I'm much better off. I mean, it was a wake-up call.
No, I mean, that's one hell of a wake-up call.
Oh, yeah.
Hell of a wake-up call.
Well, I do a lot of talks about it because people, what do you do after something like that? How do you recover? What was the impetus? And it's helped a lot of people that are stuck. And that's what I started doing after that, is because I was stuck and people don't know what to do. And they go, I'd rather sit here in this crap than do something that might scare me. And so how about a bigger scare to get you to move? And I want to take you, so maybe you don't have to do that. Let's talk about this and get your own power back, because we tend to get in ruts. And so,
You are so awesome, woman. You know that?
oh,
You are
thanks.
so freaking awesome. It's crazy. You are so awesome. You know, I'm gonna say this.
Here.
This may be too deep for some people gonna listen to this later. But what happens to people is there's altars in our lives, and when you have traumatic events, it's an altar of trauma that's built in your life. And every time you think about it, every time you participate in fear of it, every time your mind wanders back to it and you relive it, like you can vividly see it, you're servicing that altar of trauma. And it has to be destroyed, but it can't be destroyed in our own strength, because it's literally something that you've built in a realm outside of you with your thoughts and your emotions, and you're feeding it and feeding it and feeding it. That's what PTSD ends up being. And so you keep feeding, and now it has control over you. And most people go through counseling to deal with it, and sometimes it helps. But when it's something that's life threatening or life changing like that, it affects you to the core of who you are. It affects your spirit and your soul. And so that trauma is there, but at the same time, it changes your belief system, which makes you stronger. But then there's this internal conflict, and it physically affects your body. It affects your eyesight. It affects everything about you. And so, for those people listening, I wanted to put that little tidbit in there so you understand if you've experienced a trauma, because this is traumatic that she's talking about. I've been shot at. I had people try to stab me. I've never been on a plane that was going down and then seen the angels, and then the plane landed. I probably would have been laying on the ground licking the concrete thinking the Lord help me. But Jesus, thank you, Lord, help, thank you, because that's amazing.
Thank you.
But if you find yourself in a place where there's trauma, then know that that trauma that exists in this natural realm also exists in the spirit realm, and you have to address it there to fix it here.
Yes.
You
You
address it
have
there.
to ask. Yeah.
Go ahead.
You have to
go ahead.
ask for help outside of me calling James and going, let's talk about this. That's helpful. But you got to sit and go, I had to identify PTSD. And for me, it was, I never felt safe anywhere, because I was so safe on an airplane. That was me going to work. I was on a plane it's like a flight attendant. That's what you do, get on an airplane. Well, that was no longer safe. And then I'm laying in a hotel and I couldn't turn off the light, because if I can have an airplane blow up around me, who's going to say a meteor's not going to hit my hotel room? Who's going to say I was in Australia. I'd look the wrong way to go across the street, and I'd have more people grab my coat or my shoulder and go, whoa, back up. You're looking the wrong way. So it was just, you nailed it. It's indescribable, and it's so personal. And that's why I try and help people, that even with little bitty, especially with relationships, because you give your, I don't like the word power, but you give yourself so much to the other person when it's good. And then when it goes bad, they suck it out of you instead of you giving it. And how do you do that and be okay?
Yep. And you got to love yourself.
Oh, yes.
You can't love somebody else if you don't love yourself. And if you don't love yourself, then what's going to end up happening is you're going to damage that other person, and they're going to damage you. You know what I'm saying? That's really what it boils down to. And most people believe they love themselves, but you don't really understand loving yourself until you've experienced a part of who you really are. And those people tend to be mirrors of who we are when we encounter them. And so once you see yourself in the mirror,
who you attract. That's right. Oh boy. So we could go on about that.
I know. I told you we was gonna have a fun time talking. All right, let me dig back in your business, because I want to know some more about this. So, all right, 38 years old. We go through this situation with the plane, which is crazy. We come out of that, you got like kahunas of steel, because you go get on another plane, which you kind of crazy, but I respect your mind for it. You go back to work. All right. Let's talk about things that happen after that, because the ministry of angels is one thing. When they start speaking to you in an event, I'm pretty sure they never stop talking, right? After that. What other experiences have you had where they played a role in your life?
Well, back up, because I've had him talking to me since I was a little kid. I grew up in fact, I have a photo here. This is me when I was little on the farm.
Whoa, look at you.
I look like a little alien. That's what people tell me. But I was just a farm kid, we were so authentic then. You sat and you watched cows being born and calves and kittens and rabbits, and you made your own food and whatever. But I had so many angels and things talking to me all the time in nature that saved my bacon. I mean, one time I was playing up in the haymow in the top of the barn, and I was 9, maybe that age, and I decided, someone could fall someday. So I went down there and moved boards that had nails, stick it up, and pushed a bale of hay down there and spread it all out. And son of a gun, an hour later, I fell out of the barn. If I hadn't moved it, I'd have died. And I'm a kid. Why would I create this safe space? Why would I do that? So, I mean, I had a pony, and I love this pony, but I would just sit on his back and let him go wherever he wanted to go. And I would get all this information about stuff that is not real, but I mean, wasn't real. They would just talk to me. I don't even know how to describe it, but so this has been going on a long time.
Yeah, you're a hearer. There's seers, there's hearers.
Yeah,
you're a hearer.
And I could make things happen. I could make things happen. It would be, I would think this and go, well, wouldn't that be something if so-and-so something, and all of a sudden it's like, hey, so-and-so something. I went, oh, well, that was easy. As a little kid. So I just thought everybody was like that. So the whole thing with the airplane wasn't my first experience, and nor has it been my last. And, and as an adult, I've had a lot of interesting beings living with me, not of human, but I had one that was always moving my towels around and moving things in my house. And I mean, and I go, oh, you funny. They hid my stapler one time. I couldn't, or my calculator when you had little calculators. I looked everywhere, and then I go in the back my office. My desk was completely cleared. That's how I end my day, clear my desk. And I thought, where did that calculator go? Walked all over the house, walked in. It's right in the middle of the desk. And I went, oh, you funny. They do stuff like that to me all the time. So
yeah, it
wasn't just this that it happened. It was just, this was one that was so significant. And then it's built after that, gone on. And it goes into the Sasquatch people and, the things that we can't identify or are not told about or are lied to about, for lack of a better, I'm just going to say it, we're lied to. And they show themselves in ways that I go, I can never explain this, but people that have been there will get it. And you can tell when you look at someone if they get it or they're just, so. That's part of my mission. That's part of my mission with my book, is to say, get out there. I can help you open up to things that will be very helpful to you if you trust me to let me help you do that.
Right. I'm with you. And I think it's interesting because I think Jim and I talked about this. Guy, if you don't know who I'm talking about Jim Myers. We talked about From Sasquatch Outpost. If you don't know, go check it out. Head on over there. Check him out. Cool dude. When I tell you cool dude, real authentic guy. Like, there's a lot of people in the cryptid community. There are people who are personalities. I would say I'm a personality, but I'm an authentic personality. I'm just a dude from New Orleans. If you meet me, I'm Matt. Jim really is what you see. And I mean, after spending a couple of hours talking to him, you realize that. But nonetheless, this is what I find interesting. See, you and I are about to dig into what people call the woo of Bigfoot, which I don't understand. I don't understand where the term comes from. I don't understand the battle of woo against non-woo. I don't understand. It's like the Chinese armies, the great class of different Chinese armies over this particular aspect of Sasquatch. And it's almost like, to me, it's foolish because they clearly have abilities that everybody's seen that don't make sense. So it's like, well, why would we even argue? Can they mind speak, or can they cloak, or can they disappear? Clearly, you've seen these things. People follow prints, and then the prints disappear. What you think happened to it? It just leaped off and went on about its business. But it's almost like when you get into the woo side of it, it's shunned. It's like, no, we're not going to talk about that. And my stance is, I'm going to talk about everything. That's the only way you learn. You don't learn anything by closing off doors and not holding conversations with people. It's the only way you learn. So let's dig into some of your squatchy encounters where they told you things or showed you some things. I'm interested because you got a gift, and I want to know how they interacted with it.
Well, and you're so right about the woo factor, and it's funny when you hear something, you immediately, okay, here we go. There's a whole realm out there that speaks in vibration, not words, earth words, right? So when I go to these places, it's all vibrational conversation. So it's so authentic. You only can read who they are, not what they say. Is that clear? Okay.
Perfect. Yeah.
Okay. So what, in my experience, the Sasquatch people that I've encountered, and I have, hand to God, they exist, they're real, they are not of this planet, or they are of this planet, but they're of different dimensions. And every encounter I've had has been loving and playful and protective. But I think that's because they read my energy. And the people that aren't seeing them or interacting, what I'm discovering is they're muddy. It's a muddy energy. And so these are such advanced beings. They, there's no talk that I could say something and you either believe me or don't believe me. But if you read me, it's true. And there's no filters, right?
Yep.
Is that helpful? So in encounters I've had with them, they've been very playful. And I can't even tell you how many, but when I met Jim, he had just opened the store. It was still the grocery store, the Sasquatch Outpost in Bailey, Colorado. You guys, it is the best. But he had just opened, and we've grown up together in all of this. And we've spent a lot of time in the woods together and walking around and seeing things and discovering, and then going, and we didn't know that much. And we'd come back and look it up and go, well, wait, that's a thing. And one of our friends, CJ, was with us one time, and we're walking in up by Bailey, and it's a beautiful mountain day, not a breeze, blue sky. It got real quiet. That means they're around. And we're walking in this open meadow, going from a grove of evergreens through a little meadow and up to an aspen grove, because there seems to be a lot of vibration there. And in the middle of nowhere, right in front of her, goes this white cloud. Now, there's not a breeze. And she said, you see that? And we looked, and it just went, and just passed on through. And we just watched it and went, what the was that? So that was one of our very first experiences. They were showing us that. But, I can't even begin to tell you all the things we've seen and heard. But my experience has always been very helpful. We never got lost. We've seen, and when I see them, you just have to stop, and you're just in awe because of how they move. And it's almost like you want to applaud. It's like, oh my God, that was beautiful. Walk by me again. I want to see it again, because they float. And I don't know. I hope everybody gets an experience of, if not the Sasquatch people, that they open up to whatever other realm that might be helpful to them, and not shut them off, because they want to help us. They've told me, if you just ask, we will help you. We just want to communicate and help you. But if you deny us or come in with fear, and fear isn't the word, I don't know what it is, disbelief, but we're humans. I mean, you go, yeah, I'll go with you. But, and people like I try and go to the woods with that are like that. I can just feel everything around. You can hear the birds, you see everything, and it's like, they're not here because you're not ready for it.
No, and I think what I found interesting when I was doing my research on, I guess you could talk about the realm of the spirit, I found this study that they did in Japan, where they took a control group, did not give them anything to drink, no liquor, no alcohol. Then they took another group, 15 people, and gave them all liquor and alcohol. And they were testing to see if they could read the changes in their energy waves, or what the people call the auras. And they believed that the device could see it. Well, what turned out to happen was they were actually able to see the human aura, and then they were able to see it change. And then they noticed that each of the 15 people who had consumed some form of alcohol, that those colors changed, and they devised from it that it was something else that was possessing them. Which makes sense to me, that in the realm of the spirit, if you have a creature like Bigfoot or a Dogman or something that can see into the realm of the spirit, which would be just a different dimension, is what it would be, what you would call a realm of the spirit, that they would be able to see what you are, not what you pretend to be, not what your flesh and the words of your mouth reveal you to be or try to portray you to be, what you truly are. People call it energetic vibration, but I mean, it's really the state of your soul at that point in time, and they can see it. And I've been in situations where I didn't realize where I was and didn't realize that something was there until afterwards, when I was told, like, hey, God is literally saying, hey, there was a monster 10 feet away from you. Like, what? Yeah, but you don't have a problem because of the state that I'm in. And I said this, I came up with this years ago, and I speculated this, and I believe this is true. A lot of the people who go into the national forests and places like that and go missing, if people were to look into the background of that individual, I promise you're going to find something significant that led to that. Because there's too many people that transverse and go into these environments where these creatures are, and they just ignore them and they don't bother them. Why do they pick this person and that person and this kid and that one? There's something different about that person. And they choose who they're going to interact with. And that's just a nugget for those of you guys listening to the interview. That's just my thoughts on it from a guy who knows a little bit about stuff, just a little bit. A little teeny meeny bit. All right. Give me another encounter that you had with them. So they walked past you and they were basically invisible. Have you had the
Not always. Yeah, sometimes you can see them. I'll be standing there, just enjoying the view, and you'll see a tree and it'll have that shimmer down the side. And I'll look at it and they go, you're looking right at me. And I just go, hello. And I've had rocks thrown at me in the middle of nowhere. There's nobody else around. I was hiking up in the mountains with my friend CJ, and it was right around Christmas. So the snow was probably knee deep almost. Parking lot, not another car, not another footprint. And we're getting little black pebbles thrown at us. And she goes, well, it fell out of the tree. And I said, CJ, they don't fall this way.
Yeah. They fall this way. They don't fall horizontally.
Yeah, and I've seen footprints, and did a camping trip with Jim and some people. It was really fun. If you ever 2 nights in the mountains on horseback. Oh my God, we had so much activity, but they were all around our tent. You could hear them running around the tent, and even the horses, they turned and looked. This one horse in particular, when we were having dinner, and I said, there he goes. And he went right he just went right along the ledge, probably from here, I don't know, less than half a football field away. Just watched him walk along.
Jim was telling me about them braiding the horse's hairs out there.
Oh, yeah. Huge. Yep.
Have you been around when that happened?
Oh, yeah. And it's amazing because, I had horses. I grew up with them. And if they're so awful, and first of all, you have to have opposable thumbs. Who's out in the middle of nowhere walking into a field, and what horse is going to let you walk up to them and stand there and let you do these intricate braids? And they'll braid down and they get to the bottom and they braid again. And that's universal it's not just Bailey, Colorado or Kansas, that's what they do. And who knows what it means? People go, well, what do you know about it? We know nothing. They will let you into, they show you what they want you to see. So when you go looking for them, they're actually watching you. They're everywhere. They're in the cities. They're multidimensional, interdimensional.
I would have to agree that they have to be interdimensional. I've talked to researchers who've had them coming through the walls of their houses.
Yes.
Like scaring the hell out of them, like pushing through the walls. He's like, GW, this thing was coming through the walls. I was like, well, I told you not to go out there messing around with them. And this particular guy went out there and he was practicing magic. And I was like, bro, that's a terrible, terrible idea.
You're opening up.
Idea. That's a horrible idea.
Ooh, they're careful.
Yeah, that's a horrible idea.
And we have, when I'm up at the Sasquatch outpost, I cannot tell you how many people have walked in, 35, 45, 55, whatever, adults, look like everybody else, and they'll walk up to me, because I do a lot of tours there, and they'll say, I've never told anybody this, and they'll tell me these stories, and you can't make it up. You can't make up what they're telling me. But they said, I've never told it. So that's one thing Jim wanted to do with the outpost, is to make it a safe place, because we don't go, oh, whatever. It's like, well, then what? Then what? Then what? And they're so relieved to be able to get it off their chest. And then the wife will look at them more than once and go, you never told me that. And they were like, I know, but I didn't want to be nuts or whatever.
Yeah, I didn't want to seem like I was crazy.
Over and over. There was one young man, if I can tell this real quick, I promise I'll be quick.
Yeah, take your time.
Yeah, he was Native American, and he walked in, and I'm going to say he was dressed in khakis and a polo shirt with a belt and tucked in. I share that because it wasn't mountain attire, because Bailey's in the mountains, right? So he wasn't from around there. Had a nice haircut, and he was walking around, and I said, can I help you? No, I'm just looking. So he walked around a while. He walks over to me, and he goes, I want to thank you for the respect that you're showing the Sasquatch people. He said, I stopped, and I was afraid it was going to be a tourist trap. And he said, it's not. He said, you're showing such great respect to the Sasquatch people. And I said, well, how so? Excuse me. He said, well, my grandfather was a shaman. I'm from Oklahoma, and he was the shaman and medicine man for this long named tribe. And he said, when twice a year, we would go to the lake in the middle of our property, and we'd stand on one side, and he would drum, and we would dance and sing. And on the other side of the lake would be the Sasquatch people. He said, from the elders down to the juveniles, and they'd be swaying back and forth. And that was our indication to each other, we're still good, we're still at peace. He said, I didn't know people didn't believe in him until I left the reservation.
Wow. 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 And I really wish that somebody could actually get on those reservations and hold conversations and just get to the bottom of it. But I understand why they won't allow that to happen.
Well,
after being in this field, I understand why, because people are just too disrespectful.
But the reservations or their communities do. They just don't tell us. Mm-hmm. In their communities, it's not a big deal. But you go in and say, hey, show me some Sasquatch people. And they go, well, I don't know what you're talking about.
Right.
But believe me.
I can understand it.
Yes. And you look in every single indigenous tribe, they have a big hairy man in their history. Everyone. And if someone knows one that doesn't, I'd be curious to know, because when Jim was putting this all together, there was a lot of research done, because he is such a stickler for authentic. And did he tell you about a photo he's got of an elk in the museum?
No.
Oh, I think this is one of the most compelling things. He called me one day and he said, hey, guess what? I was elk hunting, and you won't believe what happened. And I said, what? He said, they were of course, in Colorado, in the mountains, they're elk hunting in the snow. And all of a sudden they saw this elk running, the prints of an elk running and defecating at the same time. Highly unusual, very frightened animal, right? Mm-hmm. So they said, wow, we got to, because it was fresh. So they said, we got to follow this. So they started following the tracks. All of a sudden, so here's the elk tracks. Here come these other great big footprints coming down. And where they met, in the snow, there's an imprint of an elk that just fell over on its side. It didn't kick. A running elk, and they're the size of a house, right?
Right, the size of a house, yeah.
It's just laid over, head, the legs are out, no body, no hair, no blood. And then the footprints walk away. So something dropped, and I said, Jim, you took a picture, right? You tell me you took a picture of this. He said, yeah, I did. So it's in the museum. And I show that to so many people and say, explain that to me. What picks up a body of an elk? First of all, drops it at a dead run.
And a dead run, I mean a dead sprint. Wow. That's a car accident.
And when it dropped, it just fell over. It didn't kick. It just dropped in mid-stride. So it was zapped. And then it walked over and picked it up like a purse, and walked off with it.
And walked off with it. Wow.
Well, something did, but there were some big dang footprints. I mean, the scene is right there. How do you explain that? And we've got all kinds of that stuff in there. I mean, it's like, you need to see this as stuff then that we're not projecting or we're not making up. It's pictures and footprints. And one time we were out there and this is in the museum as well, with a guy who is from Kansas City, and he's a plastic surgeon by day, so very, and then not by night. So he comes out and does research with us. Well, we were up by Bailey one time, and it was just about dark in the winter. And I said, hey, you guys, hold on. And we could see these footprints, and they came down the hill, across the road, and up the other side of the hill. We got out and looked, and there's large footprints and little bitty footprints. Barefoot baby. And we're going, who walks a baby in the mountains barefoot?
In the mountains. Wow.
Barefoot, right? So we went up and followed them, and then we lost it, and blah, blah, blah. It got dark. But again, please tell me why I'm the crazy one. Oh my gosh. I've been zapped. One time I was with my friend CJ, and we were out and we were driving along, and we drove by very slowly on this road, this majestic animal, this elk. It was just beautiful, big rack. And he was laying just feet off the road, 10, 15 feet. And he watched us go by, and we both thought that was kind of weird. So we pulled over, and then we got zapped in probably 7 to 10 minutes. I'm looking out this window, and she's looking straight ahead, and neither one of us could move, and we didn't care, and we didn't know what was going on, but we knew we couldn't move. And we both could move at the same time. And I said, I got to get out of the car, and looked, and there was one, and he was crouched, and the trees are such that there's no foliage until probably about 6 feet up.
Okay.
So you could see clearly, and they're, this big around, so something couldn't really hide behind it. And he was down, kind of crouched, and he was weaving back and forth watching us. And I said, hey, there he is. So let's go. So we start walking towards him, and we both looked down at the same time to step over a log, and looked up, and it was just gone. It's like, there's no way. So we had made a pact that from then on, one steps over the log, the other keeps eyes on, because we're walking right towards him, and he's just watching us.
That's wild. I tell you, I've seen Carrie Arnold has shared some photos with me of what he caught in Florida that were squatches. And I'm telling you, after seeing what Carrie caught, I don't understand how y'all could even approach something like that. I mean, these things are massive, massive. Like the photos I saw, the head of one of them was literally, it looked like the size of a car tire. Because I was like, Carrie, okay, what's the scale on this? And what's this? And he was like, no. That's at 80 yards away with a lens that zooms in. And I'm like, so that's how big it is he was like, yes. And I was like, okay, let me see the photo. Because he had them at 80, 40, 20. And so he showed them all to me. So I'm looking at it, and I'm like, wait, bro. That's massive, man. He was like, yeah, James, that's why we left, because they didn't want us out there. And I'm like, dude, y'all, I couldn't do it. I could not do it. They are huge.
And that's funny.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead. You want to make a point?
No, I was just going to say that's what is something that I found interesting, because my instinct is to walk towards them. And that's what everybody said, but they're so huge. But the vibe I get from them is a friendly, it's a different vibe than running. I mean, I've never run from and my friend and I talk about it. We go, what's wrong with this? Because we run towards them. We're like, hey, we're over here. Even when we get rocks thrown at us, it's like, hey, over here. We see you. But we always say a prayer, or we're about to enter your space. We're going to be respectful, and, you know, whatever interaction is in peace or whatever, it's just, hey, we're coming to see you.
Acknowledge them.
Yeah. And acknowledge in peace. And there's always a crow that flies over. And when it gets really quiet, we know one's around. And we're actually glad, because that means there's no other predators. I mean, there's not going to be a mountain lion or a bear. They get the hell out of the way when they know there's a Sasquatch in the area, because they're the king of the beasts, right? So if it gets really quiet when we're walking, we're like, well, they're here because. So one time I said something like, how come I never find a tree break or something in the path? Because we never go on trails. We go off trail and never get lost, because it's always, I hear it. You need to go this way, not that way. And we get back to the cart 100% of the time. We've never gotten lost. But I said one time, how come I never get a tree break in front of me, or some blah, blah, blah. So we walk for a while and come back, and there's this big broken stick right there in the middle of nowhere. Where'd it come from? And we went, oh, that's funny. Okay, you heard us. They heard us. I mean, and we hear them chattering. So the first time it happened, one was going, "Ruh, ruh, ruh." And my friend turned and looked at me and she goes, "Was that you?" And I went, "Really? No."
What do you
So
think the relationship is between them and crows? Because I know there's got to be. I don't know if crows are trained by them. I've
I
heard that
think
there's definitely a relationship, but I'm
I
not a
think
field
they
researcher,
are
so I can't.
crows. I
Mhm.
think they transform because we've been up in these little towns and out of nowhere will come a crow the size of a cow, just this
Mhm.
enormous crow that is overly large. And he'll walk right up to us in the middle of nowhere and we'll stand there quietly and just watch it. And what crow will land and walk up to you and he'll look you up and down and look you up and down, walk back and forth, kind of look over his shoulder, and then leave. Why would he do that?
Right.
That is so not normal. So because they're interdimensional, I believe, they can blend into trees. They can, okay. I saw a video when I first became interested in this and I cannot find it, but it was a guy that had what do you call it? GoPro on
Right.
his head. And then he put one on the back of his head because he was, he gets home and he looks and sees what happens. Well, he posted this where he was walking along a path and with his, just walking stick. And there's bushes on both sides. You can see it plain as day. Well, he goes back and shows you from the back GoPro. Once he walked past this one bush, it stood up, it stepped into the path, and it was this enormous Sasquatch. And he went back and played it
Whoa.
again. And when he walked by, there was no Sasquatch. It was a bush. And I firmly believe that. They can, again, because they're energy animals, they're energetic, they're interdimensional. There's a
Hmm.
dimension that they can tap into. We're like, so I asked one time, I said, explain this to me. What is this interdimension thing? And they said, I'll use us as an example. So I'm here in Denver, you're in New Orleans, right?
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So you're in your dimension, I'm in mine. But I can move to yours. I'll jump on a plane and come sit next to you. And now we're in the same dimension.
Hmm.
That's how they showed me. Only it was a kitchen and a dining room because they're two separate. And you stay in your and I stay in mine, but there is a door and you can go through it if you know where the door is.
Right. That makes all the sense in the world. I
Well, they
mean,
showed
I
all this
ain't
stuff.
going through the
Yep.
door. I don't want nothing to do with their door. They can keep their door closed, but
I'll stand in your way. Well, there's a
yeah.
gal and uh, she had an experience, very credible, where she was hiking and ended up in another dimension and it was able to come back out of it. And her story blew me away because it was she had no reason
To lie, right.
none whatsoever. And there were two of them walking along and the one just disappeared for like 7 hours. And then her side of the story is what happened to her in those 7 hours. And she was in this other place that had different kind of flowers and, it was the same but different. And for her to get out, they gave her kind of a test. She had to answer some questions by movement.
Hmm.
It's kind of weird. And when she did it correctly, all of a sudden she ended up back where she was. And her friend's like, "Where have you been for 7 hours?" And she's like, "You're not going to believe this." So I have no reason to doubt her whatsoever. And she won't tell the story anymore because she just won't. But I'm convinced. Because otherwise, how did I see those angels in the middle? How did everything go quiet in a plane that was on fire? If you've heard of 747 engine, it's
Yep.
really high. It's right next to me. I'm next to the engine. That's on fire. It's loud. Wind's coming in at 500 miles an hour. It's like 70 degrees below zero. And all of a sudden it goes completely quiet. How did that happen? Completely quiet. And all I could see is beings, 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 and colors that you can't even describe. Can't even describe.
I'll tell you what, I know there's other dimensions. I mean, I've had a glimpse into them.
Good. Good
And
for you.
to go to one in particular, it's very, very painful to go before the Lord. Your body hurts when you go to see him. You spasm and you convulse because you're going in front of a spirit that's holy. So your flesh is suffering when you do it. Do me a favor, grab that book and show everybody the book cover because I need you guys to go out and buy this book. and I'm gonna tell you why.
The View
And
from 13F.
I'm gonna tell you guys why you need to spend your money and support people who are cool like this, who are willing to share information and willing to take the ridicule, because there's a lot of ridicule that comes away when you talk about these things. And I know you guys are like, oh, I just go on YouTube for entertainment. Not no. If you want the truth to get out there, everybody be like, we want the truth. We want the truth. Then when somebody asks you to support the truth, you don't want to open up your wallet and swipe your card or scan your phone. So you need to support people who are the forefront of bringing the truth forward, or else sit down and shut the hell up. I'm not going to be mad at you. Sit down and shut the hell up. But if you say you want truth, you need to be buying this book. You need to be helping people. You need to be going to Sasquatch Outposts, or going to the website, seeing what you can order and what you can buy, because that's how this works. This is the only field that I've ever worked in where people don't understand that money's needed to get a message out, and that people are anti monetization, but then they want to get a message out. It's like this upside down bizarro world in my mind. So it's a lot of y'all listening. Go ahead and check out the book. Is it on Amazon? It's on Amazon?
Yes.
All right, go to Amazon. Check out the book.
Go to Amazon. Yeah.
Go
Thank
to Amazon.
you.
Check out the damn book. I'm not going to tell you again. Check out the damn book. Listen to me. Check out the damn book. I pity the fool who don't check out the book. All right, Sherry, we're done for the day, sweetheart. I appreciate you spending some time with me. We're going to hang out again. We're going
I
to have
hope
some
so.
fun.
I loved it. I loved every minute of it. It was great. Thank you.
All
Thanks
right,
for everybody.
Yeah, one more thing.
Sure.
Website wise, where can they find the website? Because I don't think I mentioned that.
Oh, SherryPetersonAuthor.com. SHAR. Oh, it's right there on the screen, Doc.
All right, author.com.
Yep.
All right, guys, I just wanted to make sure. And I want that for my notes. All right, guys, we're out of here. That was fun.
Thank you.
I enjoyed it.
It was fun.
All right, guys, see y'all later.